So we have done all of the math and calculation on Sun Tzu Prime, and also I get to play him in this monster KK. Now it is about time for me to give you guys the ultimate Sun Tzu Prime guide video. In this video, we're going to talk about what is the absolute best pairing, what is the absolute best equipment to use, and also we're going to talk about what is the absolute best talent to use on Sun Tzu Prime. Now, we're gonna dive straight into what would be the best pair for Sun Tzu Prime, but before that, let us understand what kind of commander is Sun Tzu Prime. I'm not gonna go over the skills one by one, because we have already covered the skills. Just to understand Sun Tzu Prime, he has a rage requirement of 900, and also he has a rage engine. He's casting his skill quite fast, which means that in order to take advantage of Sun Tzu's strength, we are looking to put a high AOE damage, high damage factor secondary to Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu has to be primary because we need to take advantage of this reduced rage cost, right? And also, we want to put high smite damage commander as a secondary as well, in order to deal more damage as a form of true damage. 30% of that red number is converting to true damage. So Sun Tzu is casting his skill quite fast, and we gotta put high smite damage commander as a secondary. Another strength of Sun Tzu is he is very tanky. He has a very good stats. He has 10% damage reduction, and then also a lot of HP and the defensive bonus. So Sun Tzu is not only casting his skill faster, but he is also quite tanky as well. Now, there's one more hidden thing. Yes, he is kind of like a single target damage commander because it does say single target, but in reality, he is not actually a single target command. In today's heavy AOE meta, when I was playing Sun Tzu Prime on open field, he was performing phenomenal. The other day, I went ahead and converted Sun Tzu Prime's total damage output and then compared what would be if he was an AOE commander. And it turns out that Sun Tzu Prime is doing similar amount of damage as Liu Che. For example, if we are pairing Sun Tzu Prime with Bai Chi, Sun Tzu Prime himself is doing damage factor of 6,552, right? And then Bai Chi is doing some sort of damage as well as an AoE. This is after all of the bonuses and boosts. 30% of those damage is being converted into true damage. But if we add this Sun Tzu Prime and then this true damage, there we are getting around total 12,000 damage factor. Now, this 12,000 damage factor is very similar to Liu Che's damage. Liu Che is doing a 2,250 damage factor to 5 enemies, and that is, at the end of the day, if we consider all bonuses and boosts, these two damage are quite similar. Even though this says single target damage, when he is getting paired with the appropriate secondary commander who is also dealing a smite damage, he's basically like Liu Che. I would say that he is might be a little bit better version of Liu Che. He is dealing same amount of damage as Liu Che, which is just like this. And not only that, he is tremendously tankier than Liu Che. And tanky stat is very important on open field. If you are tanky, then you are losing less HP and you are preserving more HP. In return, you are gonna be doing more damage back to enemy. But again, Liu Che still has his own advantage, right? Liu Che is doing 5 target AoE slow, which, you know, Sun Tzu Prime doesn't do. And Liu Che's rage engine is actually better than Sun Tzu Prime. Sun Tzu Prime's rage engine, maybe he's generating like 120 to 160 rage, you know, during that skill cycle. But Liu Che's rage engine can potentially generate 200 rage. Not only that, because he is doing combo damage, he will be proccing the horn, ring, or other accessories a little bit more often, right? So Liu Che still has his own strength. Now, there's only one downside to Sun Tzu Prime, and that is the taking advantage of this fight or flight talent. Whenever a commander deals any type of smite damage, all troop is hit by that damage is losing 45 rage. But because Sun Tzu is only doing single target smite damage, right? Which means that this talent is only being affected on one time. As opposed to Liu Che is doing actual 5 AOE smite damage, so he is reducing entire 225 rage in total. So that is the only little downside to Sun Tzu Prime. He is lacking a little bit of a crowd control ability on the field as opposed to Liu Che, but he has ways better stats and he has quite a bit amount of damage. Now, let us talk about pairings. The best pairing for single march, right? Let's just talk about first single march. The best pairing for Sun Tzu Prime is Liu Che and Bai Chi, of course. These two are the best pairing. Now, if you ask me which one I prefer the most, is I prefer Liu Che more. In terms of damage output, Liu Che and Bai Chi was performing very similar level. And this is also being backed out by our calculation as well. If you go ahead and check out the skill damage output, they are quite similar. Sun Tzu Prime Bai Chi is usually casting their skill every 7 seconds, right? 7 turns. And the Sun Tzu Prime LC is casting their skill every 6 seconds. They do have a potential to, for example, go to 6 seconds in terms of Bai Chi. But on the other hand, Liu Che also have a potential to cast their skill every 5 seconds, which I'm going to explain in a bit. In that case, they are also still doing quite a bit amount of similar damage, and they are doing ways more damage than Bai Chi and LC in terms of damage per second. So the damage output on Sun Tzu Prime with Bai Chi or LC, they are quite similar. No matter who you use, they are gonna be doing a similar amount of damage. But I just personally prefer Sun Tzu Prime LC better because LC is just providing a little bit more crowd control and slow effectiveness, which in case if you are chasing down enemies, that's going to help a lot. But there is another guy, and that guy is Ivar. Yes, and Ivar is going to perform at a similar level as Liu Che and Bai Chi when he is paired with Sun Tzu. Now, after my KOK ended, I went ahead and checked out my math, right? And then I checked everything, see if I missed something, and I did some more calculation. And it turns out that Sun Tzu Prime Ivar is actually kind of insane. If you take a look at here, Sun Tzu Prime Ivar in terms of the skill damage per second is more than LC and Bai Chi. Not too much, right? Just a tiny touch more. The main reason why is here's the Sun Tzu Prime Ivar rage simulation. Now the first skill cycle isn't looking too great, 8 seconds, because they really don't have that much of a good rage engine. Now, as opposed to like a Sun Tzu Prime LC, they're going to be casting their skill every 6 seconds almost quite reliably, even their first skill cycle. However, Ivar is having a little bit trouble for their first skill cycle, but whenever their rage engine gets warmed up, they are now casting their skill every 6 seconds. Sun Tzu Prime Bai Chi, right? Yes, they do have a potential to go down to like a 6 seconds. If you have drums build or other commanders who are giving you more rage, then yeah, they can go down to 6 seconds, but usually it's gonna be like 7 seconds in Sun Tzu Prime Bai Chi case. However, again, Sun Tzu Prime Ivar is reliably hitting every 6 second skill cycle, just like Liu Che. Ivar does have a little bit of a rage engine, right? For the next 3 seconds, this commander is gaining 15 rage per second. So total, he is gaining 45 rage. And that 45 rage is actually being enough for Sun Tzu Prime and Ivar to cast their skill every 6 seconds. But for this, you kind of need Crit Horn. Without Crit Horn, you will not gonna be able to reach every 6 seconds. So Crit Horn is gonna be making huge difference in this case. So Ivar turns out to be very good pairing for Sun Tzu Prime. Not only that, for open field players, you don't have to expertise him. You just have to have 5-5-1-1, right? Because these two skills does not really work on open field, and you are pulling out the similar performance as LC and Baichi. Not only that, but Ivar might be a very good option for swarmers as well. The third skill right here, when attacking cities or stronghold, right? Smite damage total when this skill is maxed 20%, 10%, then you are getting 30 more rage. He is quite actually very good swarmer on open field. However, if you are planning to invest into Ivar, just be careful, right? Ivar does not really offer anything. He's doing AoE damage, he's giving a little bit stats, and he does have a little bit rage engine, but that's about it. He's not doing anything else. He does not have instant proc damage like a Baichi, or he does not have any crowd control effect like a Lucia, right? Most likely, Ivar is going to be temporary investment of this year, and by the time next year arrives, January, we are going to be seeing another new infantry commander, which most likely replace Ivar. These three commanders are absolutely the top pairing for Sun Tzu Prime. Now, the second best pairing is going to be Will and Wallace. Now, Sun Tzu Prime, Will and Wallace together, they are not gonna perform as good as these three pairs, but Will and Wallace is okay. If you already have Will and Wallace, then you can definitely use Sun Tzu Prime with Will and Wallace, and I have kind of seen a very crazy reports. Again, they are not going to be as good as these three. Now, the reason why Will and Wallace is doing surprisingly well with Sun Tzu Prime is Will and Wallace third skill is giving you 40% damage bonus. So this skill right here, damage is increased by 40% if you have him maxed out, right? 80% chance that you are going to be increasing Sun Tzu Prime's damage by 40%. That is total 4,200 damage factor of single target damage, which is why just because of this skill, in return, the true damage that he is doing is also getting increased as well. We have calculated the damage per second on Will and Wallace, and not as good as the Sun Tzu Prime LC or Baichi or Ivar, but he is definitely one of the top picks. So if you have Will and Wallace, you can already utilize him. Again, by the time next year, probably he is gonna get benched along with Ivar. All right. Now, I got a lot of questions about, hey, what about Hector, or what about Philip or Alex, or there was many questions. Now, Hector is, I don't recommend Hector with Sun Tzu Prime. Hector is doing not good damage. We have also calculated the damage output. Now, this damage output, very low damage output. If you compare it to Will and Wallace, it's like 700 damage less. Part of the reason is, yes, Will and Wallace does have this, right? This is increasing the damage. But Hector does not have anything else. Hector does have a really tanky stats, and he does have quite a high smite damage factor of a single target, but that's about it. So Hector wasn't really a good option. Philip or Alex or whatever other commanders is not really a good pair with Sun Tzu Prime. Again, we need to pair really high damage output command as a secondary to take advantage of Sun Tzu. So there are currently no other commanders. So for a single march, I'm recommending Sun Tzu Prime LC. Or you could use Sun Tzu Prime Baichi. But really for a new player, right? If you are a new player, I would just go for this. This is gonna be serving you very good. Now for 2-march setup, the absolute #1 best pairing for 2-march setup is gonna be this. Sun Tzu Prime, Ivar, and Baichi LC. This is the absolute best 2-march setup. Baichi LC is already good march, and then you are using Sun Tzu Prime, Ivar. They are gonna be perform similar level as these two paired with Sun Tzu Prime. Now, if you do not have Ivar and you have Will and Wallace, this could be also the case. If you do not have any other commanders, you can still use Sun Tzu Prime Baichi and LC with Alex or Philip, right? If you have Philip, then this is definitely the one of the best options here as well. And also Alex, you can pair. But LC Alex, for me, I tried this exact composition in my KOK, and LC Alex wasn't doing all too well in this like a heavy AoE meta. But again, like if you do not have William Wallace or Ivar, right? Either Philip or Alex could definitely work. But in the end, the absolute best pairing is Sun Tzu Prime Ivar with by Chelsea. This is absolute best pairing. And if you have Wallace, again, you can use Wallace instead of Ivar. Now, let us go ahead and talk about the equipments. I have calculated many different variations. Now, first of all, you might want to use the 4-set bonus that is giving you 10% March speed. March speed is extremely important in today's meta. Absolute number one equipment for Sun Tzu Prime LC, or in that matter, the Sun Tzu Prime Baichi, which I also calculated here, or Sun Tzu Prime William Wallace or Ivar. I have calculated everything, and the results are coming everything the same. The number one best recommended equipment combination is this one. KQ weapon and helmet, and then 4-set. Now this equipment variation is kind of a glass cannon type, right? You are sacrificing your defensive stats, but this equipment works really well on Sun Tzu Prime. Because he is tanky, you can kind of afford to use this equipment. Now if you compare this equipment with the statistically optimized version here, yes, your trait potential is ever so slightly less, and you are like a lot less tanky, but in open field you are gaining 10% movement speed, and Sun Tzu Prime's a lot of tankiness is going to be mitigating this loss of tanky stats. If you do not have this equipment, then our good old variation, this one, a 4-set with gold key chest and pants. This is also performing tremendously well. Again, this is one of the best equipment variations that you can use on infantry. Now, in terms of dealing damage, of course, this is gonna do like a little bit less damage, but in return, you are becoming quite the tanky. Or the thing is that as long as you have the 10% movement speed 4-set bonus, right? As long as you have that, it really doesn't matter like which equipment you can use. Everything is gonna work. The point is you want to have the 10% movement speed bonus, right? Out of all the different variations that you can have, these two are just performing the top number one. I actually used this exact equipment in this KK, and this worked tremendously well. Now, in terms of accessories, the number one accessory you want to have on Sun Tzu Prime is Horn. You just gotta have Horn. And not only that, the crit horn was actually making a lot of difference in some scenarios. For example, Sun Tzu Prime Baichi, William Wallace or Hector, crit horn was not making all too much difference. Okay, if you don't have crit horn, Sun Tzu Prime Baichi, William Wallace don't really need crit horn. However, on Sun Tzu Prime LC case, or especially Sun Tzu Prime Ivar, crit horn is making huge difference. If you take a look into the Sun Tzu Prime LC, here if you just have a normal horn, yes, it is kind of being enough for us to cast our skill 6 seconds, right? But here in this simulation, I am not really calculating all of the rage reduction effects happening on open field. I don't think we should underestimate all of the rage reduction happening on open field. It's just insane. If you can stack up as much rage as possible, it is good. Sun Tzu Prime Ivar does need crit horn, and crit horn does make a huge difference. Let me replace this. Now, if you replace this 65 rage with 50 rage, now as you can see, we are no longer hitting that 900 rage. So we are no longer casting our skill every 6 seconds. So if you have crit horn, and if you are planning to run Sun Tzu Prime in Ivar, crit horn is going to make a huge DPS increase. If we can manage to shave off 1 second, that is a huge DPS increase, as I explained a lot in my previous videos, right? So horn is number one recommended accessory. You want to have horn. You want to stack rage. The more faster you are casting your skill, the more DPS you are gonna be doing. Again, we have talked about this many times. I have explained this in my Luce video as well, right? Now, the second accessory is you can either use Greatest Glory or Ring. Both of these can work equally well. Or you can stack drums if you have a drums build. Now, in my case, I have drums build. I have 5 horns, and then I have 5 drums. I am generating max amount of rage on open field, and there was a time where I was playing Sun Tzu Prime. He was actually casting his skill every 5 seconds with Luce. they can kind of go nuts on open field when you are being able to gain all of the rage, right? All in all, Horn number one, and then all of these options can equally work well. Now, in terms of talents, we do have little bit options. Now, this is the talent that I was using. You want to have the Thunderous Smite, want to have the Strong Body. This is, you are getting a tremendous amount of stats here. And you also want to prioritize movement speed here and there as well. Now, I do have 3 extra points. These 3 extra points I was using this to the bitter end talent. Every 10 seconds you are gaining 2% bonus smite damage, and then it can stack up to 10%, right? However, this is not as good as the attack talent here, Effortless. Effortless is you are getting 2.5 bonus to stack 4 times to reach the maximum 10 stacks, right? Not only that, Effortless actually triggers as soon as you enter combat. As soon as you enter combat, you are having 2.5% extra damage bonus, and then in only 31 seconds, you will be having maximum amount of damage bonus. On the other hand, to the bitter end, this does not do that. This does not trigger as soon as you enter combat. You have to wait 11 seconds. Personally, I was using this talent. I was using the stacking technique to fight on open field. I was being able to stack up this talent quite well. So for me, this was working quite decently. If you do not want to get this talent, you can always get some more stats here. 2% more defense and 1% HP. Pack-a-Punch, I don't really recommend this talent. Yes, you are doing a total 6% smite damage. In exchange, you are going to be taking 6% more normal damage, right? There are many combo commanders and smite commanders running on open field. So at the end, this is just gonna negate each other and it's just gonna be a waste. You're not really gaining anything. Instead of this, you could either, again, get this to the bitter end if you can manage your rage quite nicely, or you can just play it safe and then get more stats up on top here. All right, with that, our video ends here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great day, and peace.